I believe the best way to improve it's when it's playful.
Alright, this has gone too far. So I think by now we've all seen the clips of two guys dancing around the mat, grinning and slapping each other with open hands and calling this high-level sparring. You know, every time one guy lands a jab, the other will give him a glove touch and they'll giggle and they'll take turns throwing a single shot, right? But like, the worst part is the comments, because the comments are always like full of people being like, oh, this is so technical and this is what real sparring looks like. But what I'm trying to say in this video is that what you don't see on social media is that when actual fight night comes out, these same guys are the ones that get backed into a corner and then they get wailed on by their less technical opponent. Why? Because there's a difference between training for aesthetics and actually training for actual adversity. Obviously, this doesn't apply to my glorious King George St. Pierre.
If your name starts with the letter C or G, I surrender to you.
He can spar however he likes because for years he sparred insanely hard at TriStar. You know, he did rounds that probably shaved a few years off his life. And the reason he can now flow spar and he can now play chess and stay sharp without getting banged up, because he already forged his instincts in fire. He's not maintaining his skill, he's preserving his skill. And the people watching this video, I'm sorry to say guys, but no one here is gonna have nearly that level of experience. I mean, I'm trying to go pro and I don't have that level of experience. So the point of this video is that the real issue is that those who are only a few months into training are taking the advice to heart. Like you guys perhaps. So this video isn't going to be about GSP, it's going to be about people like you and debunking the cult that is flow sparring that I believe is actually setting a lot of fighters back. Alright, so let's take a step back for a minute and actually analyze why exactly is, you know, light sparring so bad. And there's three key reasons. First one is false confidence. I'll take an example from my personal experience. Whenever I light spar with people, because I mean, of course I do still do it, I'm not advocating for like its total elimination. But as many of you know, I'm taller, and I like fighting on the back foot, right? So often when someone new is trying to close the distance, I'll be here, they're coming in and I'll time them with the right cross, right? You know, like some like Sean O'Malley versus Aljo type shit. Problem is, they'll just keep going forward as if they didn't just get whammed in the chin, which is just absurd because you're not training anything at that point. In fact, these key mistakes, I mean, this one not being getting your head off the center line, are actually further ingrained into your muscle memory because of light sparring. And this is one of the biggest issues. This is the point that I really want to drive because you're essentially training under these conditions of permission. Your partner is allowing you to do something like close in because you know there's no danger. Why is this such an issue? Because those mistakes that you make in practice over and over and over again are the ones that later come up in fights. Again, like the Aljo story. That's partially the reason why you see former champions like Jamal Hill, who can't keep his fucking hand up when fighting a guy who is known for his left hook. I should have never listened to fucking Guru, I should have never picked him, whatever. But this is what I mean when I say false confidence. Like with the Jamal example, someone like that is confident in their defense because of these kinds of things. Now, am I saying that Jamal's light sparring sold him the fight? No, I think he probably would have lost anyway. But his confidence in his defense came from being in controlled condition. I don't know what went on in his training camp, I mean, I wasn't there, but I can take a guess that his training partners weren't throwing left hooks fast enough. My second point is that without pressure, there's no progress. What I mean by that is if you're light sparring all the time, you never meet any real resistance. And the moment that these people do, they collapse because they just can't hack it. Real top level fighters solve problems under fire. That's what separates the elite from just the mediocre, because you know what a problem is? Getting rocked in the second round and knowing you still have the rest of the round to go. Or getting stuck on bottom with the Dagestani and he's trying to cave your skull in. That's an actual problem. And guess what? If you've never felt that in the gym, you're not going to magically solve it in a fight. Someone who has actually spent their whole life solving problems is Volk. If you guys do anything after this video, I suggest you rewatch this fight with Ortega. Like, I actually forgot how in that guillotine. That was like done. But yet, if you watch, you'll see that Volk didn't panic. He adjusted his hips, he found space, and he fought through it. Why? Because he's been there before. Maybe not in that exact submission, but under that level of pressure. His training gave him problems to solve, not just like some choreography to follow. This is just one of the key points that I really want to highlight. I think it's the most important point because technical sparring used to be actually about problem solving and trying to figure out your opponent without just having haymakers flying around all the time. But it's gotten to the point where I only see people light scar basically on cruise control because they're not actually thinking and they're not building these decision trees and not building fight IQ. They're just building delusion. Look, your head should hurt from thinking, not from being hit. That's a real improvement that happens. Not in the rounds where everything goes your way, but in the ones where you're forced to figure it out or fold. And speaking of social media, there's one point that really annoys me. That's why people bring up the Thais, because the idea is the Thais spar light. Okay, why though? Has anyone ever analyzed why? It's because they fight every week since they're 8 years old. They're basically hard sparring. They're doing more than hard sparring every week. So just because they spar light in order to basically not injure themselves and not have permanent CTE at 16 years old, doesn't mean you know, this Western guy who maybe trains 3 times a week or however long you train, you need to be light sparring all the time. You don't have the same frequency of real fights. Maybe you fight, what, 3, 4, 2 times a year? Whatever. Bro, the only thing you do weekly, the only thing we do weekly, all of us do weekly, is goons to femboy. That's all that we do weekly. Third reason why light sparring isn't as amazing as fucking Joe Rogan will have you believe is because it's addicting. And you might ask what do I mean by that? Well, I'm simply saying because it feels so nice, it's addicting to beginners. And honestly, also to intermediates as well. It's because when you're sparring, you're landing clean shots, you're in a rhythm, and you see every punch coming. You know, it's like your partner smiles, you smile, you explore each other's bodies, and it's all in good fun. But like, that's the trap, that's the issue, because now you're getting all this dopamine of looking good, without the inconvenience of actually having to be good under pressure. Then people are defending light sparring so much because they love that feeling, because you get to, you know, you're flowing all the time, everything's clicking. But why would you ever, you know, spar with someone who's actually tearing up your leg when you can just be nice and flowy all the time? That's why these people, I mean, maybe you guys in the comments are going to be defending it so much, because why would you do that when you can just do nice flowy rounds where everything clicks and then you can claim that what you're doing is actually more beneficial to you? And this is why I think so many people are confused as to why Alex Pereira is so successful. I mean, look, someone who came into kickboxing at 22 as a drunk, and then he's now he was the first potential triple champ until losing to Ankalaev, obviously. On top of that, his stance makes him look stiff and his hands are always like in this marmot position. So people are really confused as to why he does so well. But if you just watched him spar, just go on his YouTube and watch him spar. He posts whenever he makes mistakes, and then you could literally see month to month, there's actually so much improvement. It's crazy. Like he spars hard so much. And because of that, you can see when he gets smacked in the face and he's adjusting all the time, even while being close to retire, which is just insane. All right, so how do we get here, right? How did touch sparring become this gold standard while everyone else who still spars is like treated like a caveman? It started when guys like GSP, like Holloway, like Robbie Lawler, they started talking on like podcasts about how they're toning down their sparring. And the issue is that beginners started to pick this up and think that this also applies to them without the added context that these guys have done thousands of rounds of hard sparring. And now this is the ecosystem that beginners are entering now. They walk into the gym thinking that sparring is about like being pretty. They think fighting is like, you know, it's just like you're just playing around. But that's not actually true. And I don't want to make a rant about MMA YouTubers, but it's guys like Jeff Chan that kind of piss me off when I see him like spar or something, and he's always talking about being flowy and stuff, and the moment there's a little bit of heat turn up, a little bit of pressure, he'll first of all start swinging back hard. I mean, there's countless videos like this, and then he'll make a video about why this guy was a dickhead in sparring, when, bro, it's a spar. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in there has to be an element of danger. You can't just fuck around all the time. I think that's the worst part. I think that's the worst part of this whole thing. I think it's really perpetuated by Jeff Chan. I don't want to lay into Jeff Chan too heavy, but I mean, he is kind of the subject of this video, is that hard sparring got demonized and light sparring got put into like a pedestal, like some sort of like sophisticated like evolution of MMA. Like now we're all too enlightened to do fucking hard rounds. But that's not what it really is. It's just a collective of discomfort, of avoidance of discomfort. Just a collective of avoidance of discomfort dressed up as some sort of strategy. And look, hard sparring got demonized, and yeah, fair enough. The old school gym war era was pretty bad, and it went too far because like, I mean, nowadays, even if you look at shooter box, yeah, shooter box might spar a bit too hard. But then also look at like Sean Strickland. That guy spars every day, and he sparred maybe even a bit too hard as well. But when he walks into the cage, he's already been through worse on like Tuesday or whatever. So that's why he can pressure guys like Izzy without blinking, because he's just comfortable in this like chaos that he creates himself. I mean, there's clips of Rogan always talking about how Strickland spars too much, but then Strickland himself says that, hey man, look, I've got this kind of style that lets me to spar a lot without getting a CTE, and I find that me doing a lot of hard sparring is the best way to improve. Like, what's the point in like hitting pads all the time or doing these flowy rounds all the time if you're not actually testing them under real pressure? So guys, I just want to wrap up here with my general point, and feel free to discuss in the comments if you agree or disagree, because I know it's a bit of a controversial take, but I just want to address the elephant in the room before some people like start frothing at the mouth. No, I'm not saying you should hard spar all the time, and no, I'm not saying light sparring doesn't have its place. I'm just saying that perhaps like 80% of your training, 70% of your training, 60%, the majority of your training you should really be focusing on hard sparring. Everything else should be a supplement. Obviously, drills and powder work and yada yada, that's completely different. If you're doing a jiu-jitsu drill, if you're learning how, If you're just learning how to rear naked choke someone, yeah, it's gonna be beneficial to do that light a few times and then, you know, like ram someone with the rear naked choke. But even in that instance, like knowing how to do a rear naked choke is one thing, but getting it when the other guy's trying with 2 hands on one as hard as possible, that's a completely different thing. You need hard sparring for this. I'm just recommending to you guys, if you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, if you're a beginner, I suggest just doing a little bit more hard sparring. It's scary, but just try. And if you're an intermediate, I'm gonna recommend to you, just go the next month and do pretty much exclusively hard sparring. Tell all your favorite partners that you wanna do a lot of hard sparring this month. I promise you can come back to this video in a month's time and you can leave a dislike, you can do whatever you want, you can email me, you can text me on Instagram. You will improve after a month, believe me. You will improve after a month. I've done this myself where I used to be kind of afraid of doing a lot of hard sparring. That's what really improved me. Now I'm trying to become a professional, and I don't think without me hard sparring a lot, that would be possible, because that's where I'm actually testing things out. And when I fight, I know that I can actually now land a head kick because I've done it fast. I can now do that whole like Jai Herbert Tapuria thing where he did it in between strikes. You can't do that when you're doing it slow. How are you gonna time someone's strikes in between if you're going slow? It's not gonna work. You need to do that in some hard sparring. So yeah, guys, like I said, tell me what you guys think in the comments. I think it's definitely an interesting debate, and I want to make another video maybe on this topic. I'm going to make some more videos, obviously. I mean, I'm a YouTuber, but my Instagram's on the screen if you want to give it a follow. I post there a lot. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.